Good afternoon. My name is Mohammed Sutrawala, and on behalf of the EMTT Focus Group, I welcome you to this webinar titled Personal IT Security Do's and Don'ts, or rather, IT Security when working from home. Businessmen and professionals are spending a lot of time on internet-connected devices while working from home, and while our immediate concerns relate to revenues and cash flows, one aspect that needs attention is IT security. Our children are also spending a lot of time online for education. And this has given a chance for a lot of cyber criminals to increase their activity. So we need to protect. Today, we have the privilege of speaking to two experts from the field of information security to remind us of the dangers of a super connected world. It's my pleasure to introduce Vikas Naik. We have Vikas Naik, a seasoned security professional with a career spanning over 16 years. Vikas has worked with law enforcement departments in Maharashtra, Telangana, Gujarat, Karnataka, and Madhya Pradesh. He is also in the audit team of regulators and works with banks and financial institutions, including public sector units, to guide them on security. Vikas has helped draft laws, devise strategies, and trained IPS officers in understanding and fighting cybercrime. He is a certified forensic computer examiner, a certified cybercrime investigator, and he is the person that police consult to find out how it happened and how it can be prevented. Vikas is joining us from Mumbai. Welcome, Vikas. Our next panelist is Premchand Kurup. Prem is the co-founder and CEO of Paramount Computers, a Dubai SME 100 company. He has to his credit the distinction of creating the first ever cybersecurity company in the Arabian Gulf region as early as 1998. Prem started his career with Wipro and has spent over 33 years in technology dominant businesses. Prem has an honors degree in electronics and communication engineering and has spoken at several symposiums and delivered guest lectures. He is also a charter member of TiE Dubai. Having lived in the region for the last 30 years, he has a unique understanding of the security concerns and practices in Dubai. And today we have the privilege of listening to him. Welcome, Prem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mohammed.
Yeah, okay. So now that we have the panelists here, let's start the proceeding for the day. So we were going to spend 40 minutes discussing about the topics. Then we'll have 15 minutes for Q&As. And I would encourage members to pose their questions using the tab below, which is Q&A. You can click on that, and questions must be restricted to one per member. And please note that we are recording this and will be presented on YouTube. So what are the agenda for the evening? Today we talk about the biggest challenge that we face in the current times working from home. We will also pick up on endpoint security, network security, talk a little about social media security, and finally understand what exactly is hacking. The domain of IT security is very large, and today we are going to focus on just a few points. And I think before we start, I have a question for my panelist. You know, we all are using Zoom video recording. Since started, the word Zoom has become very famous, and then suddenly it became very infamous. So though while we took precautions right now to do this on Zoom, what are the challenges that the video recording, video calling poses? So would you like to start, Prem or Vikas?
Vikas, you can take that.
The biggest issue of the Zoom video conferencing, what was highlighted recently by the end of March, was end-to-end encryption. What they promised and they under-delivered. That was the major concern. Okay.
A little louder, please.
Secondly, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the biggest concern of the Zoom started somewhere by the end of March, you could say, the major concern actually was end-to-end encryption, which they failed to deliver. And the second important things were the sessions were easily getting hijacked because some of the users who were participating or who were hosting, their computers were compromised, and the hackers could easily breach in and take away the personal data or broadcast something to disrupt the services, etc., etc. So this was a major issue, which they have came up with some beautiful guidelines. If you take care of those, I don't think so it is very easy to hijack any session. And they are also continuously improving the thing, because from Jan to this date, I think so they have got 600% of response, though some percentage they might have lost it because of this bad mouth publicity and their negligence. Definitely it is their negligence. They have not taken the security a very serious side. They had to face it, and I think so they are coming up with some good solution also.
So we are good to go today, right?
Yes, yes, definitely.
But just to add to that, Mohammed, what our members should remember is that when they are using this form of, let's say, digital interaction, they should understand that the endpoint should be protected, the channel must be protected, and the destination must be protected. And the responsibility of this lies with multiple parties. And that is where the challenge really lies in security. So sometimes, irrespective of whatever is that destination, it can be Google, and Google may be attacked, but all of a sudden you're not going to lose the relevance of Google in this digital life.
Right, you can't do without.
No.
Okay, so moving on to the first question that I have today is regarding the challenge we face. We all are working from home. Many of our members own businesses and their professionals are working from home. What do you think is the biggest security concern that we must be thinking about and taking precautions? Vikas?
Can you repeat the question? I was attending Dilip's question and
Right.
answers.
No, I was talking about that. What is the one big challenge that we have now that we should be all taking care of when you work from home?
Work from home. The major concern, as per me, work from home is the information security, the data. Because earlier we were having one of the most closely governed, secured network where everything the data is to take, data is to be protected. Now work from home, that primary security is missing. It's absent totally. So the major concern is, like, if I'm working from home, all the company data, all the user data which the company has been managing is now very much open to me in my own device. So my major concern work from home is definitely the data, the protection of the data, the use of the data or the misuse of the data.
And could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
Yeah, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, what I would like to add here is that I have seen in the last 1.5 months, several large organizations and small organizations in Dubai adopting multiple models as a result of this new risk that everybody has faced with the work from home model. Uh, Now, one of the things, again, I want to repeat what I said earlier. The endpoint has to be protected. So one set of clients, what they've done is that they have ensured that the employees can access the data only from a controlled endpoint, which is supplied by them. There was quite a lot of organizations that had already had this model, and the employees had portable devices which they were using in the office, so they could quickly take that home, and the endpoint was protected. The channel was protected because technologies had already been adopted by companies like IPsec VPN, SSL VPN, and some of these technologies that protects the channel and ensures that the data is encrypted. And then, of course, at the endpoint, which is the company's destination, the protection features were already existing. So this was how most companies, let's say, implemented very, very quickly a work from home. And you will be surprised that there are organizations that within less than 2 weeks in Dubai achieved more than 90% of people in the work from home model in a secure manner.
But I think, Vikas, you are mentioning about information, right? So
Yeah.
can you, what is the information that needs to be protected?
When I say about the information, yeah, yes, what I agree with what Prem just now said. Like, yes, there are portable devices like laptops or some of the devices which they were working earlier at their place. Okay, with the software company, I can understand this kind of arrangement. With the bank or very small business companies and all the things, I really doubt whether they have provided the laptop everywhere. So there could be a desktop kind of environment, workstation kind of, client server kind of environment, matlab, where the data has been residing on their local servers, etc. If it is cloud and all, if they have opted and upgraded their technology definitely to the cloud and something like that, definitely I agree what Prem just delivered. That would work absolutely fine. But my worry is that where a typical legacy kind of environment is there, a client server environment is there, where they're protecting the data within the organization itself, and the data never left the organization. And now when work from home has come, they are giving certain access to those people's remotely. They are accessing, or they might get the fresh installation done on their home PCs or home laptops, and then trying to access the data of the company, which is private in kind or which is personal in kind. That is the kind of worry I'm talking. Because as we started today's session, you asked me why Zoom. There is also outcry saying that Zoom is not that secured, right?
Right.
Why Zoom was not secured? Because the networks were getting hijacked. Okay, the sessions were not that secured as it was supposed to be. Because today internet is the network, you could say. There is no intranet, there is no local area network. It is internet itself is working like a big network platform to everybody. So it's an open network. So to protect everything as you used to protect in your company is not possible with the internet. There are more number of steps which is involved to do that.
So I think, are you referring to the fact that when we are in office, we are surrounded by our colleagues, and our colleagues are in a kind of a protection that we have around. But when we are in a home environment, we have others who might be peering over our back and looking at the screen, or you may have some visitors or somebody else who has visibility to our screens. And would that be some kind of protection that we have to do now? And how do you protect that? I mean, my wife wants to come and stand behind my back and look at my screen, and probably she has some other ideas. How do I prevent that?
So this is a problem with work from home. What has happened with most of the software companies in India is that there are video cameras all over the place in the office.
Right.
So they're able to, monitor and manage this. But in the home environment, at least at this point in time, the way it is implemented, there is no way of monitoring this. See, Mohammed, there is one very interesting aspect that we all need to bear in mind, particularly since you are likely to have two kinds of members who are probably listening to this session. One is a set of business owners who are running a small business, and the other is a set of professionals. See, the first thing to understand and appreciate is that the work from home user has become a risk for the company. This is number one. Now, you will have two categories of work from home users. One set of work from home users who believe that, hey, this is not my problem. This is somebody else's problem. You will have another set of users who says, no, this is also my problem and I have to work with the company to ensure that this happens. Now, for smaller organizations who don't have the expensive technology of the large organizations, my suggestion is to look at what is called the zero trust model, and the associated technology with that is called the software defined perimeter. Now, we are actually a small company, and this is what we did. Even though we are busy looking at the security of the large companies, we were never really too worried about our own security in the office, because we have a small ERP system and we have just three users, a financial controller, and then we have two people in accounts who are actually handling the Microsoft AX ERP. But now, with the work from home model, all these three people are accessing the ERP from home. So
Right.
what we did is that we moved quickly to a software defined perimeter where the PCs or laptops that are owned by these three people are not company property. So there is limits to what you can control. What you did first was you just installed an agent, an SDP agent was installed on these three PCs. So what happens is that if any one of them wants to access the ERP, step number one is that the device is authenticated. Only their device is allowed to access the ERP. This is number one. Number two, after the device is given access, they have to put in their user ID, password, and they have to put in an OTP number, almost similar to the way the bank operates for all our payments. So without that, they will not get access to the system. And then once they get access to the system, the SDP technology that is deployed ensures that the channel that is being used today to communicate between them and the ERP system is an encrypted tunnel.
Okay.
I think in a very simplistic way, it's not very expensive. It's very easy to also implement. For small users, I think this is the best thing to do.
I think somebody was suggesting that they must have a camera in home behind the guy so we can watch he is doing, or ask him to actually, kind of quarantine himself in a small space, very closely monitored by the company. Yeah.
It will probably come in later, I think. Even though we may laugh at this today, the point is that, like, for instance, the TCS CEO has gone on record today, and he has said that even post-corona, 25% of his workforce only is going to be in the office at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Every person who is working in the company will be spending only 25% of his time in the office. The balance 75% is going to be work from home. And he has very clearly said that this is the model that is going to happen post-corona. So obviously, there will be new controls that they will introduce.
Very true. Because you have been drafting laws and helping, in audit and areas related to security. And, we have this huge IT security policies and manuals and all, which are mostly assuming that we are going to work in the office. Now, with an employee working from home, and currently if the situation prolongs, you think those policies need to be revised and there needs to be a refresh in getting them to, again, agree to it?
Yes, definitely. If you see, quite few years back, when our telephones got a little bit smarter, and now day by day it is getting more and more smarter. There was something called "bring your own device" kind of concept which was introduced in ISMS world, right? Today, with this kind of pandemic situation, when things are coming up, definitely there is a need of an policy agreement or HR level of upgradation with the employee and the employer, saying what all things he or she is liable when they are doing this kind of activity from their home, etc. There need to be a special kind of terms and condition which needs to be amended. They have to be made more aware and more matured on the area of that. These are the data which is most crucial and critical in kind, which were protected back then in our company by our people. Now it has been made easily available to you. So when you are handling those kind of data, what kind of precaution used to be taken? So there has to be not only the arrangement of, you could say, a little bit of agreement between those two people, but also a checklist needs to be provided to them. A little bit of control measures needs to be set up while handling those things. When it can be accessed, under what circumstances it should not be accessed, etc., etc. So there definitely policy amendments will come in picture. It has to come in picture if the interest of data privacy or data security is to be upheld. So I totally agree what you just said, and I also gave you an example of BYOD, bring your own devices, which came into the picture, right? You can carry in your mobile phones, etc., but it has got a restricted use. It has got a certain level of, even in certain banks and certain things, certain high financial organizations, there are certain areas where there is no mobile zone. They have put the jammers. Your network is totally gone. Sometimes when you are visiting a sensitive area, data centers and all, they seal your, they put it in a sealed bag where your camera, where you cannot record anything, etc. So these are the kind of steps what they are taking when it was in the perimeter-based control. When it used to happen back there in their own company premises. Now, when it is coming to the user level of protection, the user has to do all these things on their own, morally, or with the binding of the law.
Right.
So in that policy, what we will now have is bring your own mask, bring your own gloves, bring your own sanitizer. So it will continue like that.
Very true. Okay, so I think you touched upon the fact that while the most important thing is information security, but then there are other elements we need to be considered. You talked about, end-to-end security. I mean, you talked about endpoint security. So let's, for everybody, we know that we are using devices now at home, laptops, mobile phones. We in fact have a smart TV, and the TV itself stores stuff. Then we have the IoT devices, and there's a lot of personal and work-related information that is stored in the device that we are using. What are the key threats and how do we secure? Because
any device, if you see, when you say IoT, it's an internet over things, internet on the things of, that is the term. Now, when you talk about internet, the major protection area is what? The gateway is router. Okay. So if you're seeing the threat, the first breach, whatever could happen is that through that only. To the gateway. Okay. The second easiest way is if the internet is coming to my laptop or my mobile phone, I still have got certain monitoring things, certain security things which is in place today. The concern about IoT is like it is totally open today. It is not having any. You cannot install an antivirus on IoT. You cannot install a firewall on an IoT device. It is quite connected. The one thing is that it has got some ID, it gets connected, you enter the username password of the Wi-Fi, and then after it gets connected, whatever application is stored in that particular thing, you key in the credentials, and then after it starts, right? The biggest part over here is everything is open. Nothing is in the protected view. Okay, so the protection can be done only if the router end is protected. The protection is taken care at the router end. So if you're negligent on the router end, definitely all this data becomes freely available to whoever is breaching that network. Very firstly. Secondly, there are a lot of internal features, though they have not made certain security level of implementation IoT, or they are getting matured now. So in coming days, definitely they will take care of that also. But since now it is not available, but there are definitely certain features which could be enabled, disabled, or I think so, enabled or disabled. So as per your requirement and use, you please choose those features wisely, and unnecessarily don't keep, whichever you're not using it, don't keep it open just because saying like, don't take it casually. Just disable those things which is not in use. Whichever you're using is, if there is a password protection being done, please use the password protection part so that you could protect the area. There are certain devices, IoT devices, which also have two-factor authentication. You can register your mobile number and call for the two-factor authentication. Okay, each time somebody is trying to access it. So these are the major thing, which major concerns basically. The data being very open, and unlike your other OS, like the operating system, one on your desktop, the operating system, one on your Android, they themselves have got equally matured today when it comes to handling these kind of issues. But your IoT devices doesn't have that kind of matured OS in its place. Of course, there are Android TVs and all which is coming up, definitely, which could complement certain level of security. But other than that, I don't think so. Which are typical IoT in nature, I really doubt how much security they have implemented over there.
Prem, you talked about IoT. I think I would like to know more about what we actually use in terms of mobile devices and our laptops.
Can you rephrase the question for me?
Mohammed, before we address the issue of laptop, for the sake of the small business owners in IBPC, let me tell you one very startling fact as far as UAE is concerned. Almost 70% of small and medium businesses, if you see today, they have their routers installed with the default password. This is what Vikas was referring to. This is the major problem. And the reason why this has occurred is because the owner does not know that using a router's default password is a risk. The IT person has simply given the order for the installation of the router and the network to a third-party company. And the third-party company is not security conscious, it is only functionality conscious. So as soon as they come and they do the installation, they ask you, please check, is your email working? Is your browsing working? And then you say, oh yeah, everything is working, fine. So you sign off. And then you are finished actually. The very fact that you have used the default password literally means that a hacker can take control of the router and your incoming traffic and your outgoing traffic can be directed to wherever they want. Now you have to ask yourself this question. What is the status on my router? Do I ever know? Have I ever checked?
So the router is a box that is connected to your Etisalat box, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Changing the password on that must be the first activity that you do both at the office and at the home.
Right. So there are two elements, when it comes to security at home. One is you have the network security, and then you have your own device security.
Yes,
So tell us about the device security.
okay.
Vikas, can you?
Yeah. Device security, Prem, are you answering that?
No, you answer that, please.
Okay. Device security, if we are working from home, there are certain level of device security checklists. One which can be commonly used, I think so, in the industrial practice is CSI benchmark, what everybody follows blindly, as they have directed it so well that we did not need any other guidelines for it. When we are working from home, of course, if you implement 100% of whatever they have said, many other things can get, many other users who are using our laptop might lose their freedom, very firstly. So when we talk about device security, you have to create users in your own devices. One is for your own work, one is for the personal and other things, so that there is a segregation, very firstly. Else, if you are very much concerned about the data, the data security and everything else, where you don't want any other user to by mistakenly also log in or get into that, I will suggest you install a VMware or virtual machine that is virtual from Oracle and or from VMware, where you can configure your company related, work related everything into that machine totally, and then operate it totally in a different environment, and not let any of your regular computer have interference with your office work. So that could be one of the solutions. Secondly, the devices, when you say, of course, basic, everybody today has upgraded with the antivirus. Even Windows 10 today, if you see, it comes with the Windows Defender, Bitdefender inbuilt. So an extra precaution can be taken if you're not trusting Windows totally. Of course, definitely yes. You can take an extra antiviruses of a good brand, whichever you trust. Update it regularly. Most of the people update, they do the update because it is internet connected, right? It comes as an auto update, but they fail to scan their devices. There has to be a regular scanning. At least there has to be every fortnight, that is twice in a month, at least an individual needs to scan his PCs, which I don't think so anybody does it very sincerely. That is not just the pen drive getting scanned when it gets attached, but the entire PC I'm talking about. Each and every drive partition needs to be scanned, the memory, the registry, everything. At least twice in a month that has to be done. Then after, there are certain software firewall also which can be used very smartly. Then there are browser level of security which you can add on into your browsers and secure your thing when you're surfing the internet, so that you don't become an easy victim of phishing, etc. So there are several measures, you could say, and I think so. What kind of technology to use? Prem is there. He will guide us very nicely. These are the which kind of software if used with for the browser security or for the firewall side or for the something. If you ask me personally, I am using Kaspersky as my antivirus, though I am using Windows 8.1. And secondly, on the firewall level, I've got Sophos. So those two are taking care. I frequently update the firmware. I frequently scan it. I keep on updating the policy. It was not that easy, though, being from the technical having a technical background, that you can go overnight and you can configure it. You have to keep on studying the knowledge base, look into the requirement, and keep doing it. It's over a period process rather than an overnight process.
Prem?
Yeah, my suggestion to people is that they should have a certain discipline as far as passwords are concerned. This is over and above what Vikas mentioned about ensuring that scanning is done on a regular basis. It is not really whether you're using Windows Defender or whether you're using McAfee or whether you're using Trend Micro. You can use anything actually. What is really important is that you have the process in place to make sure that updation is done on a regular basis, scanning is done on a regular basis. Apart from that, the important thing is again on the issue of passwords, because this is where most people tend to make a mistake. The password on the router, the password on the PC, the password on your Gmail, the password on your corporate email, and the password on your bank account should all be different. Because what you need to understand is that even if one of this is hacked, the next thing that the hacker could probably try is he using the same password across, let's say, his bank, for instance.
Right.
Having different passwords, therefore, is a very, very important discipline, apart from, of course, changing this password in a regular manner. Or Vikas was suggesting about the password vault. Can you add on that, Vikas?
A password vault is the password manager I'm talking about. The password vault is also one of the concepts. Password managers are very, for example, when you are having multi accounts and the multiple password, a common man ends up taking one of the most robust password and use it for couple of his accounts. So in the way he has to handle, suppose he's got 8 accounts, so he will end up using only 2 passwords, and he might be using it for one password for 4 of his accounts each. So it's better. The chances of any one of the passwords getting compromised, you might end up losing your 4 to 5 accounts in a go. What this password manager does is you can install the password manager. You can say what all application requires the password. You can key in all the passwords in that, and the password manager, it will allow you to log in on behalf of it. It will keep on generating a code on it on your mobile phone, or it will send one of the codes. You enter it, and it will, on behalf of you, it will log in the things for you. And it cannot be easily breached. Why? Because those password managers have very, very high level of encryption. So there, I will not say that they will never be breached, but there are no certain cases of a password manager getting breached has been recently logged anywhere. So I really doubt whether the password managers can be broken. So password manager can come as a very handy tool for anybody who is very don't mind me saying that, who is very lazy in changing the password and very difficult to remind it. Okay.
Also, I think people must take care, particularly in banking transactions, to make sure that apart from the user ID and password, there is at least one more level of authentication. So maybe a soft token or a hard token has been issued by the bank, so that is used. Or thirdly, an OTP is sent to their mobile, and only then the transaction goes through. So this has to be ensured that this happens.
We have this challenge between managing security and the irritation and the inconvenience, right? So we have this two-factor authentication. Everybody says use it, but it is so irritating. So you have to, first log in, and then it'll ask you go and open your Microsoft Authenticator app, and then you do it. So what was being done in say 10 seconds now takes 30 seconds, and people kind of bypass that. So how do you tell people, listen, this is important?
See, I think at least with the coronavirus, one good thing that will definitely happen is this. Do you like the mask? You don't like. Do you like the gloves? You don't like. Do you like carrying a sanitizer? Even if it is a portable one, you don't like. If you want to go out of your house, of course you want to go to. None of these things you can do today. So the same thing is going to apply in the internet world. If you're attacked once, then you will definitely follow everything. So it is better for you to assume that, yes, there is a high risk. And if this is the discipline, let me follow this discipline. If it is going to take 30 seconds more, 1 minute more. I mean, it's like when we drive from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, if whether you go at 150 or whether you go at 100, you're going to save 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to decide. So it all depends on an individual's perception of risk.
Okay. And I understand that. And I hope that, a lot of people understand that too. Let's move on to network security. We have this router at home. We have Wi-Fi channels. We have our own 4G. What is the scenario happening there, and how do we secure?
Because suggest anything.
Yeah. You're answering it?
No, I'm asking you. You are the expert.
Nothing like that. No one is expert over here. The idea is you are expert till you are speaking something good. The moment you become a victim, you are out of the expertise, right? Okay, so the expert is nothing but a person who has burnt his finger more than a common man. That's it. The more number of research we do, or the more number of experiments we do at our office, and sometimes we end up badly hit, and then we recover luckily sometimes, or maybe some of the protocols used were so disciplined that we could roll back and get the things alive. That is where we get tagged as something called expert. But any man can be an expert with a determination. That is what I will say. Provided you know your requirements very clearly, you know the protocols and the technologies, what is being used. Definitely, yes, anybody can be expert. Mohammed, can you come up with that question again? Matlab?
No, we have now, we are in Dubai, we have the super fast network.
Okay.
And we're all in the house using Wi-Fi. Okay. We also have 4G connections. How do we get ourselves secure? Because everybody is connected in the house network. We have the TV connected, we have our company laptop connected. So we are on the same network inside the house. How do we secure that?
So the very first place, when you say how does I answered this question, I think so a little earlier. If I say the entrance point of your internet to your home is router, okay, be it fiber or 4G or anything like that, it's the router. So the very first thing one has to do is to identify a secured router, not just a router. A secured router. There are means of identifying a secured router. They are having some extra features. They have got two-factor authentication in it. They have got some other encryption mode enabled in it, etc., etc. So you have to read those features instead of going for a zazzy and a beautiful lighting lit router with several antennas and getting fantasized. Wow, what a router it is! It's got a good range, etc. Go for something which has got an extra rich features, secured rich features of security, which you can configure it very easily. And that is the first thing I will say. Secondly, you should always have in your home router, a category. For example, one which you are using for yourself and your family, and one for the guest. That is must. As I will take away one of the point what Prem just told earlier. You need to change the default username password. The most common thing, everything we do is we end up doing an encrypted SSID and password, but we fail to change the basic, admin access of the username password is never changed. You need to, rename it, or you need to change it, or you need to disable the company-based one and assign a new one, administrative password, which is only known to you. Firstly, secondly, your SSID should be named in such a way and always be hidden. It should not be open. As soon as you try to scan a Wi-Fi, your SSID should not be visible to anybody. That is one way of protection. Second, the password, instead of password, you use a passphrase. That is what I will tell you for your routers in which you can protect it. Okay. Secondly, there are a lot of visitors also who come, very close friends, whom we end up giving our Wi-Fi network and all that thing, so that they can enjoy using the internet at our place. I will say instead of that, have a practice of using a guest account for it and only give that account to those people. And as soon as they go, once their use is over, please terminate, reset the password and keep it different, so that no other person can get into your router that easily, or it cannot be misused by the same individual later on. Okay. So these are the two precautionary measures what I will suggest to be taken on your home using. Rest, each and every devices has got its own security protection level. Like your mobile devices have got your fingerprint, your laptop has got also your fingerprint, password, face recognition, whatever you have enabled in your operating system, it will be cross-verifying the user and then only authenticating its access, right? So this is the way your home network should be configured. So I think so. I have answered your question. Maybe Prem has to add up something.
Yeah, I'm actually reminded one of the things that Vikas mentioned. I'm reminded of what happened in Dubai about, I think it's more than 10 years ago. A very, very large client, very important client, front facing with almost all the citizens. That company's network was under attack. And what was happening was that the whole infrastructure was extremely slow. It was very difficult to go ahead with any transaction. So evidently, right up to the CEO, everybody was concerned. Top managers were shouting. And then this company already had the best of technologies in place. It had a very, very strong IT security team, almost 20 people in IT security. And then what happened was, and we happened to be one of the system integration companies. So our people were there. It took almost 3 days to, bring that network back into action. So on the fifth day, I thought that I must make a visit to the head of IT, and I went to meet him. And, I expressed my feelings that, I'm really sorry that this happened. And he looked at me and he gave me a mouthful. He said, I'm very unhappy with your company. And he went on and on. And I really didn't know how to respond. And then he looked at me and he said, Prem, the good thing is that I'm actually upset with everybody else. All the vendors who were there with me, I am upset with everybody. And then he said, but then I told him that, at least at the end of the third day, we were able to stop the attack. I think all the people were working in the night. He looked at me and he smiled. And then he said, Prem, actually, I don't know. All your experts were sitting there and working. Did they actually stop the attack? Or did the attacker get fed up of trying to attack me and he stopped? So this is the reality. Sometimes we don't know what's actually happening.
No, I think when recounting an incident, I need to recount an incident that how easy it is. So I walk into my relative's house. I go to his, his box where he keeps his router. I go inside, I open the box, I turn the box, I see the password. I come out, I have the Wi-Fi. I go 192.168.0.1. I go inside. First I do is change the password because I take control, right? Then I go and switch off everything. Everybody's out of Wi-Fi, TV stops, everything stops. And then finally says, well, if you want it to be fixed, I can get somebody to fix it for you. And all it does is for me, I have the password. So I think one thing that everybody who's listening now should go home and see and turn their, Wi-Fi router behind and look at the password and then see if they've changed it or not. And I think that's the first thing they should do when you go home. Great. I think so. We covered work from home security for wireless. We covered endpoint security. And I think now with a lot of children doing online education and then spending a lot of time on the social media, what kind of precautions or what kind of support do we need to help them?
Because social media security.
That is the most. Whenever the social media comes, we have got the maximum crimes happening on that area. So you name it, you say it, the crime is happening on the social media. If you see, I'll take up a case instead of giving up. Like in India, half of my experience in investigation is all about social media cases. So, one of the recent cases, what happened was, somebody was using a duplicate FB account under the name of a girl and trying to pry on his girlfriends and everybody else, and be a messenger kind of thing or be a psychological healer kind of thing, and then take advantage in the actual world, and appear as whatever the girls desired to be their men or something like that. And he played with a lot of people's emotion. And the same guy was having accounts on the shadi.com, etc., etc. So what he used to do, he used to pick up the information from the shadi.com, go to the Facebook, make his survey, find those particular person, send a friend request as that duplicate from his duplicate account as a girl, portray as a very good friend, try to learn her psychology, and then after play with her emotions, and then take the advantage whichever way he can by either duping her for the money, either duping her for something else, and successfully executing many of the malicious intention. Now, the common pattern what this guy did was, he was very smart. So whenever he tried to get an access with those people, he used to use one duplicate account, but accidentally he never changed the email ID. He always used the same email ID for opening all those accounts. So somehow we got hold of those information, and then after we got, when Facebook started cooperating with us, we got all the information and we got hold of that guy. But it took 3 long years for us. You can understand, 3 long years is not a easy task. A lot of people think, it is cyber crime. So if the crime can happen in seconds, in next 1 hour, I think so the police or the investigators to get the result. But that's not the case. The biggest disadvantage and the advantage of the internet is anonymity. Here you are looking at me, and this is how I look like Vikas Naik. Tomorrow, if I was only audible to you, anybody can take my voice, and use some gadgets, tune it, and shoot their voices as Vikas Naik. It's very easy, the technology, and nobody will be able to identify that. So when we talk about social media, it is like, as we say, as Mohammed is there and Prem is there, we all are like a little earlier generation from today's generations. If you say that today's generation, we have struggled to whatever devices we need to have in our life. These people were born with the smartphone welded in their palm. So with the 4G connection. So my father always used to tell, we came from a very poor setup and a background. हमने बहुत गरीबी देखी है.
Your audio is not visible. Thank you.
Now is it okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my father used to always quote a term, हमने बहुत गरीबी देखी है. तो हम लोग भी अभी डायलॉग मारते हैं, हमने भी इंटरनेट की गरीबी देखी है. Because today's generation, when they started, I remember I started my internet access with 14 kbps of internet. 14 kbps. You can understand, it was a misery. It used to say 24 kbps.
We have all been there, I know.
So that is the reason I said earlier generation, we all come in one lot. So today's generation, they started their life with 2G, 3G connections, and today they are having fiber optic at their home. Internet is at bombastic speed. So whatever we feel should not be shared. They feel it is like a casual lifestyle. For example, going to the hotel, clicking a photograph with that dish and posting it on Instagram is the first thing they will do. Going to the hotel and sipping the soup and checking whether the soup is giving the same taste what we came for is what we do. So this is a huge difference. So when we talk about social media, the younger generation like to flaunt on the social media by doing their routines on the social media without knowing that which way they can be easily victimized. There are people, there are priors, there are social mongers who are just on social media to look for who are going to be their easiest prey in the social media. So they keep on attacking, and by closely watching, whoever is been very sincerely attentive and posting all their activities on the social media. So if you say the social media, that way it is very good. It will bring the attention. It will give you the maximum exposure, and you can be popular. But at the same time, it can disrupt your life that conveniently.
So what is the one thing? What is the one thing to do? Because we hear a lot about this ills, but people don't seem to follow. So what is one thing that you would tell the youngsters to be careful about?
One thing careful. There are many things I would like to say.
I know.
They have to be careful. But one major thing.
I have to watch the time.
Yeah. The major thing what they have to be careful about is what they are posting is should not attack them in their nearest future. Whatever is, let it be a text post, whatever they are trying to express in the means of text, photographs or video, that should not come as a regret in their later lives.
So it should not expose their vulnerability.
Yeah. So that they should not be easily a part of victim for any of these things. That is one thing. To sum it up, to cover maximum things in one line.
Prem, we have to move on to the questions, but I have one last, question about the hacking. We hear a lot about things that everywhere this hacked, that hacked, and then we say, what's the use of all this protection, because ultimately we are going to be hacked. So might as well just kind of, live it. The same thing with social distancing we're having, right? What the heck, we're going to be infected anyways. So
True.
what is hacking and how easy it is to hack?
See, okay.
See, because
Please, please.
I'll give a non-technical answer. See, the thing is that if somebody is really intent on hacking you, I think whatever is the kind of protection mechanism that you have put in place, he will probably still succeed, because you have to understand what the Chinese author Sun Tzu had said in his book, The Art of War.
Yes.
He said, if you
Yeah.
know yourself and you know your enemy, you don't have to worry about the outcome of 100 battles. Now, the problem in the internet world is you don't know who your enemy is. Straight away, you are starting from that position.
Nice.
Now, if you know yourself, but you don't know your enemy, he says that at best you have 50-50 chance. For every one battle lost, you can probably win one battle. And if you are in the third position where you don't know yourself and you don't know your enemy, actually that is the situation in which a lot of people are. Then you are doomed.
I
That
think
is why it is best for you to at least move to that 50-50 by doing all the protection mechanism.
great. I think from philosophy to practicality, Vikas.
Yeah, if you see, there's a very old say, when it comes to security, living with the insecurity is the only security you have.
Mm-hmm.
If you have insecurity, you will definitely take measures to secure yourself. So live in insecurity and protect yourself. So I'll tell you, that's a fact. If you ask me as a security consultant today, what makes me go in every day is with the tension that when I sit, when I audit anything or when I'm patching anything or consulting anybody, I hope so whatever solutions I've given should not fail, or whatever things I've implemented should not face any failure. That is the insecurity I go in. And because of that insecurity, I day in day out check many other control mechanism, whatever has been installed, whatever has been followed. If not followed, I ask the reasons for not being followed. If it is in continuation non-following methods, then I work out of the method which could be easily followed without any hassle, etc., etc. I keep constantly changing all this thing. At the same time, I don't keep my security idea stable. I keep on jumping it. So that it is said whenever you are moving, the moving object is very hard to hit. So you should have a technology and the security control mechanism in such a way which you can easily move around. Okay, and when you talk about hacking, yes, hacking, I will tell, it is not that easy, but I agree with what Prem said. If the other person at the other end is quite determinant about hacking you down, he or she will take any extraordinary measures to ensure that it will be hacked. But the major leak over here is the human leak, I will tell you. Either the hacking happens in three cases. One is you're too gullible, you're like too much easily trusting everybody. That is where you can be hacked. Second, you're greedy. You want to make money, you want to get rich overnight, or you want to prove yourself to somebody overnight. That is the second thing. The third most important, we all come in that category. Inexperience and not sufficiently educated. We all are educated, we all have got excellent degrees, we all are certified, but somewhere still we lack certain things. That happens only when the incident occurs, or wherever the incident has happened somewhere, that is where we came. So you could say inexperience and you could say a little bit of a knowledge gap is what makes the hacker a little bit ahead of us. And since for them, they have to do only one thing, that is to breach. In our side, we have to implement, we have to teach, we have to aware. If they are not getting aware, then we have to patch. There are many set of activities. So in our information security world, hacking comes into a blue, red teaming, and the kind of person like us and Prem, I think so we come in the blue teaming, where we provide the robust security, try to keep on working on the policies, etc., so that we don't let the users land up into the hacking side. But as you ask the question, whether hacking is that easy, easy if you're too casual about your technology, you're not taking any security measures, and you think, okay, it is technology, I don't care. So the chances of you getting hacked is very much you're prone to the hacking side. But if you're taking enough security measures, or you're made a checklist of the best practices, which way you should not be hacked, etc., etc. I think so. You have minimized your chance of hacking. You have minimized your chance of hacking. So,
thank you.
To be hacked or not hacked is a part of luck or unlucky. But what makes you, lucky? What makes the hacker lucky is that if you're too casual about your technology.
Okay. So I think what I get from you is that don't be casual if you don't want to be hacked. Yeah. Great. I think we would like to wind up here in terms of the discussion and move on to the question answer session. And I think the key takeaways from today, as I understand. So I have key takeaways. One is what to do and what not to do. In terms of to do, I think is to reassess the process of access that we give to people when they're working from home. B is to keep the antivirus and the malware and the OS updated. C is to change passwords regularly or to use password vault so that you're always ahead of the game. 4 is to harden your access to the networks and use two-factor authentication. You also mentioned about a laptop that is used exclusively for work. And finally is to listen to your IT security person, because he is the person who's going to keep you abreast of what's happening. And what not to do is trust easily. You mentioned about the zero trust model where you don't trust anybody. Usually it's an insider who gets you. And like we know from history that the fort is always broken from inside, if not attacked from outside. Don't neglect backup because you require that to recover afterwards. And finally, there is nothing like status quo in security. You have to stay moving and stay ahead. Thank you very much. And I think I will now take up the question that we have. We have a couple of questions.
What is called a consent management software. So in that consent management software, when you actually do something on their website, there is a privacy policy that you are saying that you are accepting. So let's say your username, your email ID, your telephone number, these are some of the things that you have entered. So you have signed now saying that this is the privacy that I'm willing to accept. You can use this for some purposes. Now, the consent management software, the way it works is that, suppose, let's say Virgin Atlantic, I know that I have given some consent, but now I want to remove the consent. For whatever reason, I should be allowed to do it. So there is a way by which, if this software is implemented, I can go to their portal and I can remove the consent. And that helps in GDPR claims. If somebody makes a claim, they'll be able to tell that, yes, this guy has actually given me the consent already. So how can he make that claim?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have last two questions before we wind up and I hand over to Samir. Is that what is a good password manager software? Nirav Shah's question. And Venkatesh is asking a similar question saying, what is a good suggestion for a pattern to be used for a password?
Because
yeah, the good, I will give you my password of 2008. So you can make out during that time also I used to use quite a lengthier password. We have our regional language as a major advantage in Marathi. So I also have a Kannada touch. So I use one word from Hindi, one word from Kannada, one word from Marathi, and one word from English. And I made it a single word. Okay. So it becomes very difficult it is easier for me. And whatever word I phrase, those words used to be in front of me. Now what you guess it. So each time I used to forget, I used to see here and there and I used to make out, oh, these are the combination of the words here and there. Okay, 3 attempts I've got. So in the sequence I used to make out and I used to keep the password. So always keep a passphrase which is more easier to learn and remember, and it becomes very hectic to hack. It is not that easy. Whenever you're typing in, every other person will be more concerned. What the hell are you typing? What are you typing, a password or a past sentence? So you say like I'm sentencing my own self, okay, to protection. So that is the best way.
A good password software. Password manager software.
Password manager, I think so. Prem will be better person to answer on the password manager.
Offhand, I don't remember.
But I think password manager itself is a good word. Good
Yeah.
manager, that's a software called password manager, right?
I don't
Yes,
use I
yes,
don't
yes.
use any password mode.
Yeah, I
Me too.
use Keeper.
Me too. I have got only 7 accounts and every password is 7 different password is here only. This is my password manager, so I don't
Okay,
trust.
we'll take the last question, which is quite interesting from Jan, and he says that what I hear is there is no best way to actually protect yourself because how well you protect yourself depends upon how well you know how to do it.
Yeah, he has a point. There is no best way, but there are certain standard guidelines that can be followed. And when it comes to protection, there is also an expense involved. So it depends on the people, the individual as well as the organization, how much you really want to spend on protection. And this is where the whole balance between the reward and the risk, the business owner will have to take a decision. You can't look 100% only at reward. You have to look at risk as well. So maybe 80-20. So you have to decide on what that insurance is. Like if you take, for instance, Wimbledon was the only large sports organization that for 17 years they paid $2 million for pandemic risk. So they paid totally $34 million. Today, because Wimbledon is being cancelled, they are getting $141 million. IPL did not even think of pandemic risk. Every other risk they have insured, but not pandemic risk.
They will make up their money, I think so, in the second half of the year.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, because your response to that question about best practices not being there.
Actually, I agree with him. There is no such thing called best practices because every day in, day out, some of the either thing is popping up, making the secured world insecure. Okay. So, best practices, you have to keep on evolving. The only best practice what it is keep on evolving, keep on patching, keep on updating the things. Okay, the best way. If you are not in the capacity, hire a person who is in that capacity to do that thing for you or for your company. Okay, who has got in-depth knowledge of it. So, or else you come up with the softwares which are equally, which can replace the human side of it. If you don't trust the man for that job, you please replace it with a hardware devices which is in that capacity. So, but even in any given case, you need to constantly keep on evolving. So, the best way to keep yourself updated is the best way to keep on evolving. Go to the latest side, keep on upgrading. So it is a cycle. So someday you will come to know after upgrading a software at a certain time, your hardware has got outdated. You have to upgrade your hardware. By the time you, once you go for that, it's a constant, your money spending has got no limit. As Prem said, it is a costly affair. So you have to define and draw a line. What is security for you, and you have to be content with it.
So it is the risk and the reward criteria. Okay, Samir, over to you.
Thank you, Mohammed. Is my voice clear?
Yes,
Yeah.
Samir.
Okay, fantastic. So just to summarize, if we take a mathematical formula of IT security as a small inconvenience, my views are if we manage this small inconvenience well, I think we save ourselves with big trouble. Now, if I have to kind of summarize today's event, I'll probably pick up, I have picked a few important points. To summarize, the panelists spoke about work from home. Few things which Vikas pointed out, and I liked it, was that data security, that today data is now exposed at home. How do we manage that? Prem really brought in a very important area of SDP, which allows the device to be authenticated, and there is a double authentication. And then also the SDP will provide the encrypted tunnel. So in terms of technology, the problem. The second area which came out very well is that in the current context, when people are working more and more from home, is there an agreement which is a policy agreement which exists between employee and employer? I think with bring your own device, usage of your own device, this will become very important. Also, when it came to the home office or personal stuff, one thing came out very clear is the router password. I believe most of us are missing that component, whether it is to do with network security we realize that IoT is still open and it exposes a lot of opportunities to the open world. But the gateway is router. So if we do small justice to this router passwords, changing it, providing a decent, separate access to guest, I think we can reduce that particular risk. On social media context, Vikas really mentioned a very important point that just we have to we have to be more responsible. That's one way. And what are we really posting on social media? I think that needs to be taken care of. And in terms of hacking, and probably this is where people would have been disappointed more, is that at what place you would like to be more, whether you want to have 50-50 chance or no chance. I think the decision is the audience have to make that particular decision. I would like to thank Premchand and Vikas for this wonderful the panel discussion along with Mohammed, and some very crucial and important question posed by the audience. And definitely they highlighted the cybersecurity threats which are happening in current times, and how we can mitigate and reduce the risk. So on behalf of EMTT Group, it's definitely a big thanks to our panelists, Premchand and Vikas, and all the Mohammed, as well as for being a very good MC, and all the people who have participated in this particular event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.